Well, hello there, and you join us here today to try and save a little bit of money, because I'm sure you've seen many, many iconic watches that you absolutely lust after and think, I don't want to spend that money. So, here are some very cheap alternatives. Some might say the cheapest in the world. If you're looking for a great watch, cheap or iconic, you will find it at watchfinder.com. You can also sell and trade as well. Tom, as no stranger to saving money, and as a proponent of the we have one of those at home, I thought we could spend some time looking at some iconic watches and picking their alternatives. Would you like me to start?
Yeah, go for it. I want to find the Indiana Jones bag of sand equivalent to luxury timepieces for my wrist.
Well, that first delicious satchel of granules would be in replacement for the anniversary Submariner, the LV, the green bezel. It had a green bezel, then it had a green dial as well, and now it's back to having a green bezel, but people love it because green, right?
Yes.
And green is more colourful than black. You might think, oh, it's a very rare and difficult watch to get, but Casio have obliged with the mysteriously named Duro. No one can find out why it's called Duro, but for some reason it is. But what does the Duro get you? It's 44mm in stainless steel, 200 meters of water resistance, so it's a proper dive watch. It has a lovely little marlin on the dial because also it's called the Marlin, potentially, I think, somewhere on some pages. It is a quartz watch, but that means you can buy it for the low, low price of just $74.95, and I think it's a bit of a beauty.
Absolute bargain. And if you're looking for the Rolex green bezel sub, you're going to want something that resembles the gaping maw of Kermit the Frog, and this does that as well. So,
I'm too sick to do my Kermit impression, Tom.
Oh, good. Bonus. For the next one, we're sticking with Rolex, and we're going to try and find a cheap alternative to the ever-desirable Daytona. And so we need a racing chronograph and something that looks like a Rolex and is cheap. So that's Invicta's modus operandi. And here we have the Invicta Speedway 9211 men's quartz watch in 39mm. And on Invicta's European store, it's €115. And you get all those lovely, delicious Daytona visual idents there. The tachymeter scale, the 3 subdials ringed in black on the dial. The oyster bracelet alike, the faux oyster, the foister, if you will, and something that Rolex doesn't particularly dabble with a great deal. Lovely textured dial. You've got some sort of guilloche going on here, perhaps. Very, very nice indeed.
They've even gone so far as to put down the little screw-down pusher collars as well to make sure you don't accidentally press them underwater and ruin all that lovely 200 meters of water resistance.
Yes, actually, that's the biggest tell of all. How could I not mention that?
Tom, sticking with the Rolex theme yet again, but for the last time, the Rolex Datejust, it is the quintessential Rolex with that Jubilee bracelet, with that fluted bezel, with that proper old man, too long in the sun look in steel and gold. But here, for just £130, in 36mm size, which is the classic size, it is the Timex Legacy Boyfriend. It has 50 meters of water resistance, so it'll be just fine by the pool, but maybe not quite so much in it. And once again, we're talking quartz, and that gives it that low, low price. But you'll also notice, chucked in there for free, you don't just get the date, but you get the day as well. And we all know that the Rolex Day Date is a much more expensive watch.
I know a lot of people take exception to the amount of text there is on a Rolex dial. You've got superlative chronometer officially certified or something written there, and everyone hates that. And I think they'd all much rather it said Indiglo and there were some nice waves. So that is what everyone's been asking for in the Rolex community. So you get that as well. Next, we're going to try and find a cheap alternative to the Omega Speedmaster. And for £83,
what?
You can't do much better than the Fossil Bannon multifunction black silicon watch. So this is a tidy quartz chronograph in black. It's got 50 meters of water resistance, but it's 45mm in diameter, so it's quite chunky, but it's very eye-catching. There's no dot over 90. There's no 90 at all, unfortunately, but yeah, there you go. There's a dash between 40 and 35. That's all you're getting.
As a racing chronograph in black, for that price, I think we can forgive it. Moving on, Tom, there are many people for whom the complex looks of the Breitling Navitimer are quite tasty and sweet. And they want that, but they can't afford more than $145. Well, thankfully, Sterling is here to the rescue with the confusingly named Monaco. Now, it's 42mm, and I'm assuming it's stainless steel because it's otherwise not listed. I'm hoping it's not that old favourite low lead brass. But at $145, maybe you can just take a chance and find out. It has the confusingly numbered bezel, it has the ridges around the outside edge, and generally has that vibe that I'm going to have to look at this for at least 10 minutes to discern the time. And of course, there's a chronograph chucked in there too. It is a quartz watch also, they do define that. They suggest it has an RRP of $725, but I don't believe them.
It looks great. It really looks like a Navitimer. And for the money, it's that'll definitely give your wrist a taste of Breitling. I really like that they've used an old flywheel from an Invicta for the bezel, so that's quite good. Next, we're on to Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, and why not just go for the obvious one, the Casio GA2100 series, nicknamed the Cassioak, because of its likeness to a royal oak. And this one is peculiarly named Forgotten Futures series. Not sure why.
I forgot.
Sounds cool though. All your favourite G-Shock traits, the alarms, the calendar functions, the stopwatches, the timers, the resin with the carbon core guard, indestructible nature of the whole thing, but the octagonal bezel, which gives you that very distinctive Royal Oak appeal, and in all completely monochromatic grey, this sort of gunmetal texture. It looks really, really cool.
At just £99.90, it's hard to say no to. And in this coloration as well, people might even believe that it's metal. And if they believe it's metal, they might even believe that it's a Royal Oak. Stand at distances from people and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
One of the most iconic watches ever made is the Lange & Lange 1 for its asymmetric dials and, quirky, fun way of telling the time. Now, this is a very difficult watch to find a cheap alternative for because making a watch like that is difficult. So, there are some compromises with this one. The first is the price at 2,750 Swiss francs. Now, given that the Lange 1 costs many more times that, I think we can forgive it. Also, it's not an asymmetric dial so much as it is a regulated dial, which is where the hours, minutes and seconds are split up to aid timekeeping back when there were clocks and observatories and the two had to meet in the middle. But nevertheless, I think it's a rather nice looking watch. You split those times up into separate dials with heat-blued hands over silvered subdials, and you get a feel of that asymmetry. Now, it is symmetrical, but you get a feel, and maybe if you just tip your head over to one side slightly, you might even convince yourself you've purchased a Lange 1.
Yeah, really, really interesting arrangement on the dial there. And if you manage to go some way to aping the look of an A. Lange watch, then you've made yourself a very fine watch. And that's what this is. Now, currently, to my knowledge, there aren't any cheap alternatives to a Blancpain 50 Fathoms. So I've managed to source a Spinnaker Oxblood Red. That's going to get you part of the way there, especially with the curved, shiny bezel there, which I love so dear because it reminds me of a fruit polo, or if you're in America, a Lifesaver candy, for £299 in 43mm stainless steel with a sapphire crystal. Inside it's got the Seiko NH35 automatic movement, so not quartz, so yeah, pretty cool. 150 metres of water resistance for £300, pretty good.
Yeah, if you've been attracted to the Blancpain 50 Fathoms just purely because you want to lick the bezel, then this will do that for you. It may not taste quite so sweet, but it's going to be pretty tasty.
And if you taste the Oxblood Red on the dial as well, that's quite rich in iron, I understand, so that will also be good.
Tom, the Cartier Santos, as made famous by Mr. Santos Dumont as he flew his dirigible around Paris and needed a way to tell the time from his pocket watch without having to fumble around in his pocket, The Cartier Santos wristwatch was made and popularised amongst men, and it is still a very popular watch today, but pretty dear. If you don't have that kind of money, there is always the Herbelin Cap Camerat Square Automatic, and you'll see here with that semi-integrated case with those screws in the bezel and that TV-shaped bezel, you're getting a lot of that for not very much money. It is 39mm across, you get 100 meters of water resistance, and inside is a Swiss Sellita Caliber SW200, so it's pretty well spec'd too. The dial is very nicely striped, reminds me of the deck of the yacht I also wish I had. So maybe you could potentially wear this more affordable version of the Santos on your rowboat.
Yeah, also I'm looking for a cheap alternative to an Aquaterra and a Bell & Ross, so this has got me covered, I think. Next up, this is a cheaper alternative to a Tag Heuer Monaco, being that it's a square racing chronograph, and that has fulfilled that criteria. This is the Loris. It's a stainless steel watch with 100 meters of water resistance in quartz, and it's €113, and you get the nice racing vintage stylings there in blue and white. Very, very fetching. The subdials are rotated clockwise, so they're at 12 and 6 as opposed to 3 and 9. You get a little date and a chronograph counter. It's very nice, and it looks very fetching on this NATO strap.
I'm just glad they didn't call it the Loris Navitimer to continually confuse us alongside that sterling.
Oh, that would have been great.
Tom, if you've been hankering after a watch that wears you more than you wear it, the IWC Big Pilot, a famous watch worn by pilots during the war, then you can find a cheaper alternative at €550. This is the Steinhardt Nav BR 44. As the 44 implies, it is 44mm across in stainless steel, and there's a lot of stainless steel there with that big oniony crown. You get 50 meters of water resistance because there's not much water on a plane generally, and you get a Sellita SW200 automatic in Illabor finish.
If you were looking to do a quick switcheroo on Lewis Hamilton's wrist, you could slap this Steinhardt on and take one of his IWCs and he'd never know. He's got 2 more on there anyway, so we probably wouldn't notice the weight. Right, next. How about a cheap alternative to the Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso? This is the rotary ultra slim, and you can see it bears striking resemblance to a Reverso thanks to the rectangular case, the nice sort of Art Deco stylings there. You've got a very nice sunburst pattern textured dial there, ticking all the boxes. It's 28.5mm across, 50 meters of water resistance, it's quartz, and it's £225. The only thing it doesn't do that a Reverso does is Reverso. So the case, the dial is fixed. There is no reversoing for you with this model, unfortunately. So if you're going to play polo, you better take it off because you might smash it. But at £225, yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame it doesn't reverse, but I'm sure that adding a reversible function would have at least made it £500. And we're looking for the cheapest versions here. Just pretend it's stuck. If you've always had a hankering for the cushion-cased goodness of a Panerai Radium here, and haven't wanted to stretch for the full budget, there is the Gecko to Pioneer. Now, this is a 42mm stainless steel watch, so slightly smaller and slightly more wearable, but it still packs in a full 200 meters of water resistance. It is charged by the Seiko NH35 automatic movement, and you get that 9, 3 and 6, not as a sandwich dial, but they're there anyway, giving you Panerai vibes. All together for £399. Now, the Gecko to Watch collection, they're generally very high quality and well rated as well, so you know you're going to buy not just something that feels like a Panerai, but just generally feels like a really good watch.
Yeah, really eye-catching, really nice, really striking. Yeah, it looks like a Panerai, but it's got enough going for it that, yeah, it's just a pretty cool watch on its own. Next, for me, how about a cheap alternative to a Patek Philippe Calatrava?
Yes, please.
Easy enough. All we need to do is find a watch that's shaped like a watch. This is the Orient Symphony III. It's certainly watch-shaped, but it's actually got all that lovely classical elegance that you would expect from a Calatrava. Here in yellow gold, stainless steel. Yeah, some lovely stylings, these nice applied markers, these sword hands. And the Orient logo actually looking quite ornate there at the top of the dial and not overbearing, as it often does. In 42.6 millimeters, so that's going to wear like a 42.5 millimeter on the wrist, 50 meters of water resistance, caliber F6722 automatic inside, and just $235, so absolute bargains.
It is a very high quality watch for the money. You're not going to find an automatic watch with this quality for much cheaper anywhere else.
So there.
Tom, we're going to wrap up with one of the great icons from the East. This is the Grand Seiko Snowflake, a watch that turned the tide on watches being made outside of Switzerland, with a dial that apes the coldest of landscapes, the frosty car park of the Grand Seiko studio during the winter. This, however, is a cheaper alternative to that, the Seiko, so within the same brand, Presage Sharp-Edged Laurel Edition, in 40.2mm of stainless steel, 100 meters of water resistance, so very usable, 72 hours of power reserve from the caliber 6R55, which makes it a very good week wear, which you can park up during the weekend, and it'll still be running when you get the other side. And it's £990. Now, the dial doesn't exactly mimic the Snowflake. There are other alternatives that Seiko make that perhaps more closely feel icy, but I think this one, with its very geometric design, looks more like, yes, an actual snowflake. More so than the Snowflake. £990, it's a lot of watch.
Yeah, that's amazing. And to paraphrase ZZ Top, all the girls crazy about a sharp-edged Laurel limited edition 110th Seiko wristwatch making anniversary. Yeah.
So there you have it, dear viewer and listener, some iconic watches and their cheaper alternatives. What iconic watches have you seen, and what iconic alternatives would you replace them with? Let me know down in the comments below. Please do like and subscribe as well, and if you're looking for a watch of any sort, go to watchfinder.com for all your buying, selling and trading needs. Goodbye.